Hey, what's up guys? I am Jerome from the Bonsai Supply and welcome to this week's video. So in this week's video, I chose another species that we are going to be covering in detail. And the species that I chose is one that is not used in bonsai as often as it should be used, I think. It has been used overseas, especially in Asia, a lot, but it hasn't really caught on in the United States just yet. And I really don't understand why, because this species is readily available, it is fast growing, it is resilient, it flowers, has actually very beautiful flowers, and it also has beautiful fall colors. And it comes in a subtropical as well as a tropical species. Now I am talking, of course, about the Vitex. So the Vitex agnus castus, also known as the Vitex, the Chaste Tree, which is probably what most people refer to it, and it is also known as the monk's pepper. Now, as I said, it is a deciduous plant. It is native to the Mediterranean region, but it is also found a lot of times in the Asian countries as well as in the United States. It's actually found all over the place. Any nursery, pretty much any nursery that you go to, you can probably find a Vitex. Now, as I said, it is one of my favorite trees, and it is one of my favorite trees because I think it makes excellent bonsai material. And hopefully by the end of this video, you think so as well, and you're going to pick up one for yourself, of course, hopefully, and try to turn it into a bonsai. Now, first off, I think we have to talk about the best features of the Vitex. And I think we have to start out by mentioning its fast growth habit. So what I love about the Vitex the most is that it grows so fast. I think it is probably the fastest growing bonsai species that we use. If you think that like a Premna grows fast, you haven't seen anything yet. The Vitex has explosive growth. The growth is even, and it's a very tight and compact growth. It's not a leggy growth, which makes it a very good candidate to turn it into bonsai, because just through continuous pruning, you can grow a very tight canopy very, very quickly. Now that's of course a bonus. Now also we have to talk about the flowers, of course. It has beautiful purple flowers that flower throughout the year. So it usually starts out in the spring, first the leaves come out, and right after the leaves, the flowers come out. And then it goes through the flower cycle throughout the year, maybe 3 or 4 times, also depending of course of your climate and how healthy the tree is. I love the fall colors because they're mainly yellow, some of them have a red, but it's a very beautiful dark yellow, almost like a gold. It's very beautiful. Now, the Vitex can also be used for all bonsai styles, so you can do cascade, you can do forest, you can do whatever you think of. It is adaptable to pretty much all styles. And what I like about it, I think the most is, well, not the most, but what I like about it a lot is that it is readily available. So you can find it pretty much at any big box store, at any nursery, garden nursery. You can find little trees, and you can already turn them into bonsai by just letting them grow for a couple years. They will thicken up very, very fast, and you can start the bonsai training very quickly. Now let's talk about the seasonal work of a Vitex. So before you even think about what time of the year should I start to work on my Vitex, first find out what type of Vitex you have. Do you have a tropical or a subtropical one? That makes a big difference. Now the easiest way to find out is to actually look at the tag of the Vitex that you get, and then go to Google, type in that name like Vitex trifolia, and then you can find out very quickly the growing zones. If it is below a 9, that means it is subtropical, and if it is a 9+, that means it is tropical. Pretty straightforward. So I'm going to run through from spring all the way into the winter work and care, and you have to keep in mind the subtropical and the tropicals are cared for a little bit different, but I will point them out for you as I go. So in the spring, with the subtropical, you would want to go ahead and repot. You can, and this only applies to the subtropical one, repot in the spring, the tropical in the summer. That's pretty much the only difference when it comes to the 2 trees for the seasonal care. Now then in the spring you can go ahead and style, you can graft before the leaves come out, you can wire, you can prune. And then moving into the summertime, that's when you would repot the tropical one. You once again can do the summer defoliation, you can style, and you can do the grafts. Moving into the fall, once the leaf colors have changed to the fall season and the tips start to crinkle and they start to fall off, that's another good time to do a fall styling, remove those fall leaves, do a styling, do a wiring, do a trimming, whatever you have to do at that point, but no grafts and no repottings. Then in the winter time, we style them, we wire them, and you can do very minimal trimmings, but once again we don't repot this time of the year. Now throughout the year you would keep your Vitex out in full sun. That's where they love to grow the most. You would water very frequently throughout the growing season to keep them very happy. And then in the winter time, if you have a tropical Vitex, you want to overwinter it with your tropical trees, meaning in a greenhouse, indoors, in a garage. Make sure that it stays above 50 degrees Fahrenheit. For the subtropical, just keep them with your other tempered trees. You can keep them with your maples. That's what I do a lot of times because the Vitex is very temperature sensitive as well. So meaning set it on the ground, away from wind, cover the pot with leaves or hay or straw or something like that. And make sure that the temperatures don't drop below like 26 degrees Fahrenheit. And that is pretty much it. Now throughout the rest of the year, you can obviously prune the canopy back when it overgrows the shape of the Vitex. Just let the new growth harden, let the flower cycle finish, and then you can trim it back. And that is the seasonal care. Pretty straightforward. Now propagating a Vitex is probably the most easiest thing that you can do. You can propagate them from seeds, from cuttings, or from air layers. But once again, whichever one of the three you choose, extremely straightforward and very, very easy. The seeds, make sure you Google what type of Vitex you have and then find out the sowing of the seeds because it varies a little bit per species, but also if you have a tropical or a subtropical. Now all the cuttings and the air layering are best done when the temperatures are above like 50 degrees Fahrenheit and the trees are actively growing. Now in terms of cuttings, you can literally take any type of cutting, even the size of this, chop it off, put it in soil, and it'll grow. No questions asked. And this is why it is one of my favorite trees. So the air layering, of course, works super easy as well. Attach the air layer. Within about 10 weeks, you'll have a full package of roots. Sever that off, plant it, and you're good to go. Now, what I like to do with Vitex the most, I like to get a Vitex from a big box store or a nursery or whatever, put it in the ground, and within about 2 years, you can go from a cutting like this to maybe like a fist of trunk. That's how fast they grow. Let them grow, and like what I have done in the past is I put a cutting into the ground, wait about 3 to 4 years, and once I have a big trunk like this, that's when I go ahead and select cuttings, select branches that have great movement, chop those off, and plant them. And what's cool about the Vitex cuttings is that they evenly grow out of the cut area, which means that technically you don't have to air layer them because you get a really radial root spread just from the cuttings. So excellent, excellent bonsai material to use. Now last but not least, we have to talk about the care and maintenance, and we're going to be talking about the watering, the fertilizing, and the pest and disease. So starting out with the watering, you want to make sure that in the spring when the Vitex wakes up and starts to actively grow, you want to make sure that you never let it dry out again. Make sure that you water it every day around the same time in the morning before the sun is at its highest point. So for instance, I water my Vitex every single day at 8 a.m. Also make sure that you really drench them because they love water. Since they are such fast growing trees, they need to have a lot of water to sustain all of that growth, the flowers and the fruits as well, of course. Now, throughout the rest of the year, like in the fall, winter, and early spring, when they're not actively growing, they're mostly dormant. You just want to make sure that the tree doesn't dry out completely. Keep the soil just slightly moist, almost on the verge of drying out. Now, when it comes to fertilizing a Vitex, it's pretty straightforward. I use our 18410, which is an all-purpose chemical fertilizer, so high firepower. Now, since the Vitex is such a fast-growing tree, you want to give it something that has a lot of kick to it as well. Vitex responds extremely well to this type of fertilizer. Now, if you take a look at this Vitex, which is my Vitex, it's a windswept Vitex. It is very well ramified, very far along in training. At this point, you would then want to switch to more of a maintained fertilizer and then switch to our organic, which is an 835, and then slow down the growth. Because at this point, I don't want to have that explosive growth anymore because it could potentially ruin my ramification. So I want to slow it down. I want to let the tree get root bound and slow down with the fertilizer. When it is young in training, repot it more frequently and use a high firepower fertilizer. Now, in regards to the pests and diseases, I actually had to do a lot of research on it because I honestly did not know what the diseases and any pests were on the tree because I never had anything on my trees. And I've been growing Vitex for well over 10 years, different type of Vitex. I never had anything, never seen anything. Very unusual. I thought, wow, they're just very resistant to any type of disease or pest. But after Googling a little bit, I found out that they do get thrips, aphids, and whiteflies, which just means that, just incorporate these trees into your monthly spraying routine. Now, this is it already for this week's video, and if you have any questions or comments, or maybe I forgot to mention something, please leave those comments down in the comment section and I'll gladly respond and answer all of these questions that you may have. Now, if this is your first time coming across our YouTube channel and you like bonsai, welcome first of all, and you may consider subscribing to this channel so that you're always up to date and notified when a new video comes out. Now, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time.